going on, y'all? I'm back with my second video in my 7-video series, just explaining and confessing some things that I prayed about, that I think need to be talked about and said, and really just I need to get off my chest, excuse me. Anyways, in my last video, I talked about just kind of how I grew up and how I thought like being just how I kind of saw myself as a black man or black person when I was like 19 or 20 or however old the hell I was when I, made all of them prayers. And basically just, how I thought people saw me and stuff like that. Basically, I thought people saw me as like this idol figure, quote unquote, the best Negro around or whatever. And so basically I prayed to God about some things, a lot of things actually. And I was like, God, if I'm not the best Negro around, show me what needs to be shown with this, with these prayers and stuff like that. So one of my prayers, basically, I'll just get straight to the point, basically was for me to have multiple wives. Now, I'm gonna give you basis for why I prayed that, and my thought process behind that. I'm not, and this in no shape or form is me saying that I'm going to have multiple wives or that specifically there's any single person, right, who is by fate mine, right? But this is me saying that it's okay for me to have desires. It's okay for people to, want what they want, and to take on what they're able to take on, yeah. Anyways, my basis for the whole multiple wives thing, was just this. Basically, like in the Old Testament, you see instances of the patriarchs, Abraham, just different people in the Old Testament. There's even laws pertaining to having multiple spouses in the Old Testament, specifically multiple wives. And when I first become a Christian or a believer in Jesus, I really hung on to and honed on to the teaching that the law from the Old Testament, is really actually still in effect. It might not necessarily be applied to us who are in the New Covenant time, right? But as far as the moral law goes, God laid out, what he thinks is appropriate for a nation, for a people, in his law that he gave to Israel. And I'm not going to sit here and say that just because there's laws that God laid out, that it's always appropriate for every single government system. But I will say, if God's heart behind something is laid out, at least in a sense, we should at least try to match that model of what that is. The laws pertaining to Israel, right? Those were only laws given to Israel, all right? And that's for a reason. Israel was a theocracy. It was a religion-based government system in which literally God came and said, okay, this is my law, follow it, right? Whether or not you want to believe that, how God interacts with people is religion, or, that's how, what people believe about, the God of the Bible, that's up to them, right? But me being a believer in Jesus, one thing that I really, and it's not even as if I wanted to prove anything. It's just more so like if I wanted to see God as all the way righteous, it's all the way who he is. I wanted to see him as righteous all the way throughout. From the Old Testament to the New. And specifically with the multiple wives law, stuff. I think it just kind of fit what I was thinking as far as, me being a young man wanting to push my boundaries, and, think about what I could, do under the sake of my morality in God. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but I think that we as people need to be careful about why we do that. I've learned as a grown man, that just because you think something is right for a situation, it does not mean that it's actually right for everyone in that situation. It's not right for for every situation, and that includes your thoughts about your relationships, what goes right in your relationship with your spouse, or with whomever you're with, is not the same thing that goes down with another couple and what they do in their relationship. Generally we all have the same things that make us work in relationships, right? Men, we crave to be respected over anything, right? Women, they crave attention and to be loved by by husbands, but at the end of the day, those things ultimately, they're what they should be fueled by is, for men especially, I think it should be the thing that we should crave as husbands is to be men that want to lay down their lives for our wives, right? Like that should be our main goal first before we crave to be respected. And as women, you know, if you crave, or if you crave attention from a man, right, you should learn how to be a good wife, learn how to be submissive to a man, right? I'll get into that later. Anyways, my want for multiple wives, it doesn't spring up from me just wanting to have sex with a lot of women. You know, I think back then it was I want to be creative with my endeavors and my wants with my life, and for some reason it just again like I said in my last video, I just couldn't get past whatever I was dealing with unless God, you know, showed me okay, this is a real thing. This could be a thing. So yeah, I basically I prayed for multiple wives, and you know, one thing I remember praying was that I would meet every single last one of the ladies that I prayed for, you know, at a certain time. And at this time, I've met every single woman that I prayed would be my wife, in a sense. Now, do I think that these women are, you know, will ever actually be my, you know, wife in marriage, my wives in marriage? Who knows, you know? There's some other things that I prayed for that, you know, who knows? That could be that those things could actually happen. I'm not going to sit here and say that they will, because it sounds kind of kooky, right? But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, God is still a way maker and a dream maker. That's all I would say, man. That's all I would say. Anyways, now, I think one of the reasons why this was so important for me, right, was because as a young black man, you know, I was dealing with like just this whole white Jesus stuff, and just dealing with Christianity in America, and Republicans and conservative Christians, and, you know, just that whole ideology of like, you know, Jesus is for white culture only, or whatever. I was dealing with that, and God just was real fuzzy for me. So basically, if he wasn't answering my prayers, it was just like, man, I think I'm gonna just go ahead and give up on this whole Christian thing. But like I said, God is a way maker, and he is good, real good. He showed me, like, he be showing people, he be showing me stuff every day that I'm just like, man, why am I like this? Why'd I pray for this? What is wrong with me? He's just good to me, man. Like, I don't get why God is so good. I don't get why people are good to me sometimes. Like, anyways, like let me just get into it. So get back into it. You know, back then I was just dealing with, like I said, the whole, you know, Christian culture thing, and there were just so many things in the Bible that, you know, and like that just screamed like, this is for white people. You know, like being cast out into the outer darkness, you know. Jesus being described as, you know, having white hair and seeing the light, you know. Walking in the light, you know, things like that. Being of darkness. Let me go to a verse that possibly talks about darkness and light, and let me see. Let me see. Actually, let me just go there. Let me go there. I'm sure you know of plenty of verses, right, that talk about darkness and walking in the light and, you know, stuff like that, things of that nature. But I figured out, might as well give y'all one example of what this means, at least. Sorry, not what it means, but like just one example of the Bible talking about darkness and stuff like that, and talking about it in a negative way. And the thing is like, now that I know the Bible more than I did, or at least as far as, like, I read the Bible twice, front and back. Now that I know more about the Bible, it's like, I don't even think those things for real. Like, I don't even, like, my first thought as it pertains to Jesus has nothing to do with him being a white guy or anything with Christianity being, you know, anything about white people. It's just that, like, I know that those things kind of just exist, I guess, and I'm aware of it. And so I walk daily just with those things on my heart. I can't even like think about a verse now that talks about that. That's how much I don't think about that. As far as like the whole darkness references and Christianity being about white supremacy or whatever. Heard that new Kendrick song? Well, the new Kendrick album. Squabble up, squabble up, squabble up, hey, squabble up, squabble up, squabble up, hey, squabble up. Sorry. All right. Oh. All right, I'm back. My phone died, and I took the opportunity to go get some cereal, and yeah. Honey Nut Cheerios and some chocolate and milk. Great. So I was talking about verses in the Bible that basically can give the idea of like darkness being a bad thing. Examples like 1 John chapter 1 verse 5, it says, "This is the message that we've heard from him and proclaim to you that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all." Just the idea of, dang, darkness is, if God is good, if God is light, right, darkness must be bad, or that whole idea of just the light versus the darkness, and generally how it's considered, how darkness is considered to be bad and light is considered to be good. You can go to another verse. This is Acts 26. Excuse me. Acts 26. This is Paul, the Apostle Paul, basically talking about his conversion. Excuse me. He's talking to someone, and he's basically saying, I'll start at verse 13. It says, "At midday, O king, I saw the way, a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, that shone around me and those who journeyed with me. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice saying to me in the Hebrew language, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?'" That was his name before. His name was Paul. Jesus gave him the name Paul. His name was Saul. Keep reading. It says, this is Jesus now talking to Saul, who was actually Paul. It says, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It's hard for you to kick against the goads." And Paul said to the person who was actually Jesus, he says, "Who are you, Lord?" And the Lord said, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But rise and stand up upon your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose, to appoint you as a servant and witness to the things in which you have seen me, and to those in which I will appear to you, delivering you from your people and from the Gentiles, to whom I'm sending you, to whom their eyes shall be opened, so that they may return. So that they may turn from darkness to light, and from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me." That's another example of the Bible generally talking about darkness as this terror, in which makes you blind. Of course, in the nighttime, we can't see. That's plain. When it's dark, but I don't know, like, just different things in the Bible pertaining to darkness and like that. It got in my head, and me being an overthinker or over analyzer and all of that, like, it just got to me way back then. And I prayed about just different things, and now today God has shown me, like, okay, bro, you thought way too hard about all that. Because when you look in the context of what God is saying in these verses, he's not saying anything about people in their skin color or black people or anything like that. He's just giving the imagery that when it comes to darkness and evil, you know, that's just those two things kind of go hand in hand as far as evil hiding in darkness, evil things happening in darkness. Generally, when there's light being shown on something or on someone, things are uncovered. It's being made plain. The sight of it is clear. But when it's dark, when it's uncovered, when it's covered, when it's not so clear, things are fuzzy. And when things are fuzzy as far as in this case, salvation, you don't know. Like God even says to us through the word that if you yourself are not assured of your salvation, then you should probably get to that point, because there needs to be some trust between you and the Lord. Like that, like having a relationship with God is not just about knowing or having a head knowledge that He is God. It's trusting that regardless of whatever happens, He loves you and He has your back. So remembering these promises, remembering those things, like, it helps you throughout your walk. Back then, I needed to be able to trust, in the process, and I couldn't. So I prayed what I prayed. It just so happens that the whole multiple wives thing, it could possibly be a thing. I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna say that I will definitely marry these young ladies, but I will say for sure, He answered my prayer as far as making these people real. I'll go into detail about some other stuff pertaining to that as well, but now another thing I prayed was about time. If God is the God of time, that means he's in control of it, right? He's in control of everything that happens. He's in control of even the prayers that we pray. You feel me? So for some reason, time, the concept of God being the God of time, Him having control of time, it was just interesting to me. And I prayed that my wives, right, would be born at certain times. Be born at certain times. That they look a certain way. That they have certain occupations, right? That they do and be into certain things. You feel me? Now, I do think it's right for you to ask God for exactly what you want, because it's what you want. It's what you want. Like, it's not bad to want things from God, because He's God, If you want things from him, he wants to give it to you because, excuse me, he's your God, he's your Father. But we do have to remember that God ain't gonna give you everything you want, because not everything's good for you, right? Now, as far as me having multiple wives, like I said, if it's good for me to have multiple wives, I'm laughing because, like, the idea of it is just funny to me. But obviously God, saw fit to make these people real for some reason. So I have to, in some way, have faith that there's a possibility that I could be with these young ladies. And yeah. But before I even have the thought of being with these young ladies, right, I have to understand, certain things about relationships and certain things about men and women. I said it earlier. As a man, I have to be a man that, of course, I want to be respected, right, by my wives, whatever. But in order for them to respect me, I have to be a man that is willing to lay down my life for them, that's willing to care for them in a real serious way, to protect them, to provide for them, to be a man for them, for her, them, whatever, man. When it comes down to it, I want my wives, whatever, to be protected, and for them to see me as a figure that actually cares for them, actually wants to serve them, Biblical manhood is not just wanting to be respected, but wanting to love, wanting to be loved for good reason, of course, but wanting to serve in a loving respect toward your companion and toward your family and toward those who are in and surrounding your community. The reason why this is so is because men, we're the leaders of the family. Biblical manhood is stepping up and doing the hard things when it's needed. Biblical womanhood is sitting down and listening to your husband. So as a man, I need to be somebody that's worthy of being listened to. I need to be somebody that's worthy of being, submissive to. I have to be a man that's actually trying to go in the way of being a sacrificial leader, not just for myself but for my family. And I have to do that and be that in a healthy respect. You feel me? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to be perfect at that or that anybody ever will, but I will say that, like I said in my last video, the 3 things that make this world go round is love, effort. I forget what the third one. The third one was, but definitely love and effort. What was the third one? Love, effort. That's what it was. Honesty. Honesty, love, and effort. I'm pretty smart, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, honesty, love, and effort. Without those three things, man, like you can't have healthy anything. It's just not gonna last. It's just not gonna last without you being honest, without you having the love to sacrifice for your family, for your peoples, and without the effort to actually put an action behind it, ain't nothing gonna hurt, ain't nothing gonna work, man. And that's why having, if I'm being real, that's why having one wife that's probably the best thing for you. It's probably why the Bible in the New Testament talks about, leaders having one wife, being models of the community, because, well, having one wife, one spouse, it's just easier for you, like it prolongs it I'm sorry, let me get my words right. It's just better for a long lasting relationship. One thing I didn't take into account back then was, well, I did, but not fully, I should say. Jealousy and envy. When it comes to relationships, anyone is going to be jealous of their spouse being with another person, or a man and two women. Like, jealousy is going to come up. People feel differently about certain situations, and you can't get mad about how people feel about their relationship. I will say, if your relationship is toxic, you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. You probably shouldn't be around that. However, the idea of having multiple wives or multiple spouses or whatever, back then I was okay with my wives being jealous of each other or whatever, because that's going to happen. Like, I get jealous over my niece, looking at other male figures as father figures or whatever. I get jealous of my mom, looking at my brother and thinking that he's a better son in certain situations. You feel me? Like, I get jealous. That's gonna come. I get jealous over, certain, like, going to the gym and seeing men who are bigger than me, even though I have a pretty good size to myself, and I can put up considerable weight if I try. Like, jealousy is just a form of life. It's gonna come because we're sinful, we're messed up, and it's just what it is. But it turns into another thing when you're envious. Envy is another step of jealousy. Envy says, I want what you have. I I can't survive unless I have what you have. Or, you know, envy says, I'm going to look at you with disdain because of your gift or your talent that you also don't deserve, or whatever. Like, there's a difference between jealousy and envy. Jealousy is just, to me, it's just like a normal thing of life. But envy says, I want what you have, and I'm not going to be happy unless I have it. So yeah, like, I think jealousy is just a part of life. Like, even God says, hey, I'm a jealous God. Like, don't look at other idols. Don't look at other things as God, because I'm God. But the thing is, like, the only thing about God is he is the only God. So he has a really good right to be jealous and even envious, but he doesn't, get envious, because he's not, like, he's actually God. Like, nothing else is actually God. So it's kind of, anyways. Jealousy comes. Envy can be stopped. It can be prevented. So when it comes to having multiple relationships or multiple spouses, jealousy is going to come. It's what it is. But having basically wanting to be another person, or wanting another person's spot, that's another thing. I figured back then that if people are able to be in relationships without being envious of another person, or without the wives being envious over each other, I figured it could work, So I prayed about it, and I've never had. I'm not married to multiple women, but I will say I think it's possible. I think it's possible to have multiple women at one time, and for them to be totally okay with each other. Jealousy is gonna come, but it is what it is, man. Just gotta learn how to move past it. Anyways, I'm gonna go towards the structure of the family. Now, in today's world, the whole idea of gender roles, right? It's, I'm not gonna say frowned upon, but I will say it's a bit more cloudy than it used to be. And I'm not sure why, because generally what we want what each gender wants out of relationship, out of a relationship, generally also matches the role in which each gender plays. Men, we want to provide, we want to protect, we want to bring pleasure to our wives. We want to be leaders, we want to be the head of the household generally. And generally, women want to be submissive to men. They want to be tender and bring pleasure to their men in ways that are going to be attractive. And generally, of course, each gender wants kids, but each gender generally wants kids for different reasons. And to raise those kids in different ways. Men generally are more masculine natured. We are more rough and tough, and when it comes down to laying down the law and thinking with logic, that's just what we are. It's just how we are. And women, not to say that you don't think with logic, but women are generally more bubbly and emotional, and the way in which women lead, it's more so under the headship of their husband. That's plain. It's not, or they're leading in the capacity of what they do, or what they go about as far as life. And that's just plain. So when it comes to women leading in motherhood and leading and being a wife, they do so under y'all do so under that role. Being a mother generally is being soft to your kids, bringing being soft to your husband, bringing pleasure to your family, bringing a certain bubbliness to your household. Men, we generally bring more of a direct and disciplined role to the family. And that's generally how things are. And it's hard because for me, I thought about this whole, multiple spouse thing, and I thought about, my kids that I would I would possibly have with these women, and like back then I had just the wildest dreams of having like an insane amount of kids, right? But whether or not that comes true or not, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna entertain, because I'm a grown man, and I understand how money works and how this stuff goes down. And if I be real, I'm not sure if I'll be able to handle that many kids and, you know, moving around with that many women, supporting that many children. Because if I'm being totally honest, I'm one of those guys that wants to get to know my kids. I want to be there for my children in every capacity. Excuse me. So when it comes down to me having, you know, more than 10 kids, it's like, you know, I want to. If I got 10 kids, I want to be there for all 10 of them. You know, if I got 10 boys, I want to go to all 10 of them boys' games. You feel me? Like, it's hard because like that's the kind of family I want. You know, I want 13, 15 children. I want a big family. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I want to be able to be there for all of them, and not just have to, you know, have to be the baby daddy for, you know, 2 and 3 different families. Regardless if that happens, I mean, shoot, I'll do it. But I want to be there for my kids. And that's one thing that is, I mean, much more prevalent now, of course, but for kids in my generation, I shouldn't say kids, we're all adults now, but for people in my generation who are my age, there were a lot of us who didn't have fathers in their households. I mean, it's still a pretty common theme where fathers aren't necessarily in the household. They might be in the children's, the children of today's lives, but you know, they don't live in the same house as their dads, as their fathers. And let's be real, it's better to have a dad around 24/7, to know that you're being protected by your father, to know that your father is there for you regardless of anything that goes down or that could happen. To know that your father is there to help you right there in the house, to raise you up and to turn you into a man that you should be, or to raise you up and turn you into the woman that you should be. You know, having that headship in the house is so important, and that's something that I sincerely want to change in the Black household, is just being there for my kids in any way that I can. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have had my dad in my life, in the household. You know, as a grown man, you know, I see and I saw different things back then. Even when I was praying about these things, I was like, Dad, like you fucked up in life a lot, but I'm so thankful because my dad was always there for me. He still is, and I'm so thankful for that. You know, I could complain about different ways in which my dad wasn't there for me, or just different ways that I wish he could have done better as a father. But my dad helped me in life. My dad guided me. My dad provided for me. He protected me. He stood up for me. He taught me. And that's something that I'll always treasure, regardless of, you know, what he didn't do, and just the different ways that he probably could have did better. I'm always thankful because my dad is that. He was my dad. Not just my father, but he was my dad. And that's something that when I became a Christian, I was very mindful of, because I'd always had just different things going on in my mind, as far as my father, as far as my dad, and I was always like, one thing is that I never played baseball, and subconsciously, baseball. So I'll be real. Baseball is my favorite sport in the world. I love it. I'll sit down and watch it just because, or if somebody invites me to go play, like, that's all I want to do is go play ball. I remember when I was growing up, that was the one thing that I wanted to do when I grew up, was to play to play baseball. But I never had the courage to actually go out and play for an organized team. I tried out in high school one year. I think it was 10th grade, and I got cut because I didn't have any experience. And I mean, I'm not sure if I was that bad or whatever, but I got cut, and that just tore my whole confidence to ever to ever want to play ball ever, just in pieces. And I'm not sure why it troubled me like that back then, because I mean, all I really need to do was practice. If I had done that the way that I do now, man, I'd have definitely made the team. I'd have definitely got on there and probably been a star. But I can't attribute my father not wanting me to not wanting me to play sports, or not putting me in sports, I should say, to my misfortune of not being able to play, because at the end of the day, we are all responsible for our own actions. And so if I wanted to play ball so bad, like, even as a kid, all I have to do was, I guess, speak louder and say, "Mom and Dad, can y'all please put me in sports, or try harder to go out for the team?" Maybe I would have made it, Anyways, that that was a tangent I probably went down, because I'm very passionate about it. But I'm sorry. I was talking about fathers. That's you see, like, I forgot why I even got on that topic of baseball. Where'd I get on that topic? Where'd I get on that topic? Hold on. Anyways, yeah, I went back and I understood, I went back and I looked at why I brought that up. I brought that up because I always thought that growing up, that my dad just could have done better as far as putting me in sports and stuff like that. But I can't hate him for that. Like, that's something that, as an adult, it always haunted me. Like, going to college, I wasn't the most athletic person, but at the same time, like, I had build, and I could have, if I had gotten out there, been a help to any team. And so it just always, like, was in the back of my mind. Like, I've never played sports, and my dad never put me in sports and all of that. I was always kind of like just hateful for that, just really mad at my dad, and just really mad in life for not being able to do that or whatever as a child. But like, one thing I do remember about being a child is that even though my parents, they weren't the best at communicating with me and, asking me about, what I want, or like, how do you feel about this, or, is this like something you might be interested in doing or whatever. I also wasn't extremely vocal about that stuff either. I definitely said, like, I can remember when I was a kid, like saying like, "Hey dad," or "Hey mom," whatever. I want to play ball. But I wasn't like in their face annoying them about it. Like, I wasn't extremely vocal about that. I do remember saying it to them on more than one occasion, but it was never like, I never made a big deal out of it. That's something that me personally, I'm not good at. I'm not good at making a big deal out of the things that I want. So back then when I prayed these things, I was like, God, give me these things. Like, show me this stuff. Show me that it's okay for these things to be okay, at least. The whole multiple spouse thing. For me to at least have the opportunity to get what I want. You feel me? And he's a good father in answering that prayer specifically. You feel me? Like, whether or not I get to have my wives or have whatever as far as that, because I'm not gonna lie, like, the idea, like, this coming out of my mouth sounds kind of strange, but at the same time, it's like, I prayed about it, and if God is showing me that it's a okay thing, I should be okay with it. Yeah, I've learned that as an adult, I need to be more vocal about the things that I want. Just and just seeing a whole bunch of things that I prayed about come true. It's like, God, you hear me. Like, you hear my wants, you hear my desires, and you actually want me to have what I want. And so that's one thing that has helped me in the faith, is just knowing that God actually cares about what I want. Like I said earlier. Anyways, I keep going off into tangents. I'm talking about the family and the family structure. The black family is one that is being repaired, and needs to be repaired much more thoroughly. I think that there needs to be a lot more work to be done, of course, but generally, I do believe that you know, here in America, the black family is on the come up. I think that I know there are certain things that need to be done as far as reparations, as far as programs for the black family to specifically take part in. I don't mean welfare and food stamps and stuff like that. I mean real deal money, real deal just things that support the idea of the black family and not just black people surviving. Of course, we got churches, right? We got books, we got different things out there that talk about the family structure and stuff like that. But real deal, I do believe that black people deserve and should have reparations. I mean, it's not just a thing of us managing money well. It's like, it's more so a thing of us just getting what we deserve as a people, getting what we need to have healthy families, to have men that are able to lead, to have women that are sufficiently able to be soft and just be women that want to be moms and wives, you know, living in their soft girl eras, quote unquote. So anyways, as a man, it's my aim to work towards, you know, these goals as far as having a healthy family, having healthy families. You know, if I were to have multiple families with multiple women, which I don't, you know, disclude. You know, it's actually my prayer that somehow, somehow, if I'm able to have babies with all these women that I prayed for, you know, it's my prayer that I have children with them, and that I be able to see all of my kids. I really only want and need really one wife. And I have said person in mind already, but I'm okay with the idea of having more than one woman, supporting more than one woman, and supporting more than one family. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna get into more about my prayers later on in the next video, but I wanted to say what I said in this video because it's gonna lead into just more of why I prayed certain things. I think that the black family, it's it. I think that the black man, especially, has been under attack for hundreds of years, and the black family has suffered from it because of that. So as a man, I want to be there and be a difference and be a change for my children and for my wife or my wives. Yeah. Yeah. And with all that being said, tying into Christianity, I forget the verse offhand, but it says, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. The idea of multiple wives or multiple spouses or whatever, whether it's lawful, that's not for me to judge. But whether it's helpful is what I really should pay attention to. It's right now. It's in U.S. law that having more than one spouse is illegal. It's in Georgia law. It's pretty much illegal in every state. But like I said, being able to communicate and be honest and work towards having healthy relationships, even in that manner, I think can be possible. I've looked at stats for open relationships and for people that claim to have more than one romantic relationship, and I think that the numbers are pretty staggering as far as how much they don't last. But I don't know. I'm not sure where that one study I looked at basically was from a law group that specialized in divorce. And so specifically, I didn't necessarily like the fact that that study came from a divorce law group. And that's really the only real study that I had that I looked at and could find on the rates of multiple spouse relationships. Like I said, the numbers were pretty terrible as far as how well they lasted and stuff like that. But like I said, when it comes down to that stuff, there's a lot of factors that come into play that we should pay attention to, if that's something that you're interested in. As a man, we should be willing to sacrifice for our wives, be helpful to our families, leading our families with courage and we wanting to protect and to provide and care and sacrifice for the good of our families. As women, we should be wives that want to not only provide but nurture and provide a sense of pleasure and buoyancy, softness to the family, to their husbands, to your husbands, and to your kids. I pray that for the black family. I pray that for all families, really. But I pray that for the black family that, we could have every family with a dad, every family with a mom that gets to live in her soft girl era, and not just, broken or half-filled houses. The whole multiple spouse thing, man. I see a lot of good in, in that hey, you can have more than two incomes to supplement a house. You can have. There's so many ideas that me personally I can think toward with someone having more than one spouse, but there's also a lot of bad things that can come into play. Like I said, people can get envious. People can feel left out. People can feel like in U.S. law right now, because you're only allowed to marry one person, having multiple spouses or having multiple people that you claim to be, your romantic partners or your spouses, whatever, can be problematic because, well, if you only marry one person, someone's not legally bound to you. If you have multiple spouses, you can only legally marry one person. And if you want to make it work to where you have both or however many spouses you have, right? It's gonna be detrimental to the people who are left out of the single marriage, because money matters, territorial and real estate, that stuff matters. So it's my prayer that my girl just texted me. It's my prayer that as it pertains to U.S. law, I think that I've looked at the stats. I've looked at the reasons why it's illegal. I've looked at the reasons for why it shouldn't be a thing, as far as polygamy or whatever. I think personally, I just don't see a reason for it not to be a thing. I see reasons for why it could be bad, for reasons for why it can be seen as just the worst, but I don't see reasons for why it shouldn't be a thing. More life can be brought about. Things can happen with, you can make more families. You feel me? Like, as a man, like, if let's say you want to have two families, I'm not going to sit here and say that's ideal, but I don't see why not. You feel me? More life, more blessings. You feel me? That's how I see it. But at the same time, it's gonna be harder because you have more to deal with as a man. Yeah. The one thing that That's the one thing that I really think that that's the one thing I really see more value in polygamy over US law, is that the law allows for gay marriage, right? And that's, I get it. You love who you love. You should want to marry who you want to marry. I get it. But if that's the case, you should apply that same principle for polygamy, because you love who you love. You feel me? If that's the case, why not be able to marry more than one person? Why not allow a man to lead more than one family? That's actually adding more value to yourself. That's letting a man add a value to himself, literally. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, okay, gay marriage and polygamy are, kind of in the same boat as far as the whole, extra marital relation thing. But I will say, with gay marriage, there's not really anything of value being added besides the two people coming together and being able to join. With polygamy, there's more life being brought about. Like, you can make, like, let's through heterosexual polygamy, babies can be born. You feel me? The same amount of love that the same amount of love that, well, actually, it's really more love for real. Like, if I'm being honest, there's more love being shared in polygamous marriages or polygamous relations than in just heterosexual and homosexual relations. Like, to me, it's like more life for real. I haven't experienced it. Like, just the thought of it, to me, it just makes sense. I'm not going. I can't try to put more logic behind it, but besides just that, I think as a man, if you're able to take care of what you're able to take care of, I think you should do it. I think you should be allowed to do it, and that's just how I see it. Yeah, it's definitely easier to have one spouse, but I mean, if you're able to take, I mean, rappers do it. That's funny. If you're able to take care of more than one woman, I think that you should be able to do it. That's just me. I ain't gonna argue or say nothing more than that. Yeah, I hope that was somewhat kind of informative. Again, this is just me spilling out my heart and spilling out my thoughts, my prayers, my wants, my this my, just what I'm trying to bring about in these videos is just me being honest with certain things that I prayed about, and just wanting to be real. So I hope that this video was seen as that. And yeah, man, grace and peace. More blessings. See y'all in the next video. Easy.